Welcome to another episode of Metal Mastermind. Your host, Jason Stallworth, and we also have the
Ken Candelas.
And we have a guest today.
Yes.
Nic Z is on with us. Real quick backstory here. So Nic Z, we've been working with him for a little while. Hey, Nick. Thanks for coming on, by the way, man.
You're welcome.
Nick is a pro audio person, engineer, producer, professional at mixing and mastering. This is what he does for a living, so he is the real deal. Of course, he has created a course on the Metal Mastermind platform, Mixing Producer Overlord, the mixing series. So we're going to get in today, guys. We're going to talk about the future of mixing metal, how things are done differently today than they have been done, but even more so than that, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what you need to do, the things that you need to focus on. Now, at the end of the podcast, guys, we're going to talk about something that's extremely dear to my heart: guitar tone snobbery. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
This is
guitar tone snobbery.
This is just, it's just we could talk about it for days, man.
I turn my nose up to your guitar tone. Snobbery.
Does it go to 11?
Yeah. Is it a real amp or an amp sound, bro? Which is better? We'll get to that. We'll save that for the end, guys.
Absolutely.
But Ken, I know you've known Nick for quite some time. I'll let you guys kind of kick off your history and a little bit and how Nick got into this whole thing. You are a musician. Nick is a singer too, by the way, because I heard you doing some vocal exercises, same ones I do on Instagram the other day. So anyway, Ken, I'll let you guys kind of chat about how long you guys have known each other and how Nick got into this thing.
Yeah. Well, Nick and I have known each other for a couple of years now at this point, where we were kind of trying to collaborate on my music. We know each other through mutual friends, and I've learned so much from Nick. And so Nick has kind of been a spearhead for our Metal Mastermind mixing series, Metal Producer Overlord. And that was one of the reasons why. Is hearing his stuff, just kind of how he was able to translate information. It just led us to having this mutual relationship. So Nick, your background and all of this kind of stuff has always kind of led to working very, very sort of heavily into the metal scene. So I love hearing about just a little bit where you started and whatnot, and how did you become the person that you are today? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Coming from Ireland in the Euros when I was a wee lad. Oh man, I'm too manic to do this. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm going to make a joke every 5 seconds. Fucking.
Hey, that's what it's all about, man.
So I started, like everybody. Oh, I don't know if everybody did. That's a silly thing. I had my first band when I was like 14, which ironically was it's like a rock grunge thing, you know what I mean? Like the first record I ever bought with my own money was Pearl Jam 10.
Oh, sweet.
So up until that point, I'd been stealing music off my brother. My brother taught me about music, and he was like, if you have an older brother, like he's the one that fucking teaches you everything. So I got Public Enemy, Boogie Down Productions, EPMD, Beastie Boys, and then Chain of Strength, Youth of Today, Judge. Who else did he love?
That's
Gorilla
awesome.
Biscuits. And he was like an 80s, late 80s straight edge kid. So he would like, I don't know, I'd be sleeping and he would like run in my room and like jump on my bed and like scream hardcore lyrics in my face.
Nice.
I heard Straight Edge. Yes, dude. I heard Straight Edge Revenge on Spotify the other day, and it was so nostalgic because it was just. I remember him screaming it at me. You know what I mean? And I was like this little kid and shit, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna mosh," and I was like doing something. He's like, "Bro, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm moshing." He's like, "You're not.
That's not how you mosh.
No. And he was awful to me, but that's okay. But I mean, like, he taught me about music, and when I started to really come into my own and hear stuff that I liked was around the time that grunge happened, because I didn't like, for most of the people that I know that like metal, that are into metal, they have a very, very different background. And that's that they came up on 80s metal. Most of them came up on Metallica. You know what I mean? Like, behind Jason, as we speak, what's on the wall? Like,
it's a Puppets
Metallica is the
poster.
hero.
Yeah,
Master
my
of
first
Puppets.
2 albums. Yeah, Puppets and Justice were my first 2 albums. Yeah,
I love it. What were your first 2 albums, Ken?
I think, as far as the ones that I've heard or the ones that I've bought.
What was the first record you bought with your own money?
Yeah,
like, as a kid.
I think it was Disturbed, 10,000 Fists.
Okay, we're officially not friends anymore.
Yeah, that was the first one that I bought. I won't lie. And then what did I buy after that? Probably a Dream Theater record.
nice, dude.
Yeah.
So
those.
Excuse me. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, that's most of the guys that I know that, especially around here, that are into metal, are into it from the 80s. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The band I'm in now, the old man band that I'm in now, my other guitar player is 1985 all over the place. Just, and like, if he's not playing 16th notes, he's not happy. And I'm like, slow down. And he can't. Just that, and I'm like, okay, dude.
Metal shredder, man.
That's hilarious.
So, I mean, that wasn't my background. Like, that was, so my first record was Pearl Jam 10, and then right after, I think, was Undertow by Tool.
Oh, that's a great album.
Yes, insane. And then, so the way that it worked for me, coming up on kind of hardcore, which is like more punky and hip hop, like, I was never really into, like, it took me years and years and years to get into like blast beats and like faster stuff. You know what I mean? Because everything was groove based. Mm-hmm. You know, you know what I mean? Like, that's how my heart beats. You know what I mean? Like, it's how I came up. So hearing, you know, or like Master of Puppets, you know what I mean? Like, it's, I'm like, I don't understand this. It's like, it's just not for me. But around 1994 or so was the first time that I heard Fear Factory remix.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a Scum Grief remix. It was, this song was, it goes, and the original, of course, is like, you know, heavy, you know, metally drums. But on the remix, you know, that riff comes in, and I was like, whatever. And it was like, you know, and then when the beat drops, it's, you know, and I was like, holy shit. It was like hearing the end of the world. I was like, this is the only thing I ever want to do for as long as I live.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I think it was
beat or something. It was fucking unreal.
I think it was Nevermore for me that really twisted the tide for me. This Godless Endeavor that's a
good album with Jeff Loomis on there, man.
Yeah, that was a turning point in my listening. Yeah, it just, there's always that one album, man. It just kind of helps curve your love for this stuff.
I love Jeff Loomis too. He's awesome guitarist, man.
Yeah,
I feel like everyone has a moment where like they hear the music that's gonna, you know, that maybe their heart's been searching for, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was
absolutely.
What was it for you, Jason? Like, what was your, like, what did you hear and you were like, this is it, like, this is the end?
Which, long story short, I grew up listening just to the radio, just recording songs. Now, I'm a little bit younger. I'm sorry, I'm older. I'm a little bit older, probably a lot older than you guys, because you guys grew up in different areas.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I got that backwards. Oh, man. You're like, hey, you old dude. No, but I grew up recording radio songs on tape. You had to press play and record at the same time.
Oh, yeah, big same.
And you're like, okay, DJ, stop talking in the middle of the intro. You're screwing it up, right?
Yeah, big same.
But I was recording things like Genesis, Phil Collins, I'm going to say Tiffany, Madonna, stuff like Prince, The Police, all these different songs. Of course, Def Leppard. I didn't really. I love that style of music. I love 80s, still do. But when I heard Metallica for the first time, there's this dude on the bus. He looked real cool, had the jean jacket, all the patches, long hair. I wanted to be him, but I wasn't cool enough. But anyway, he was listening to something. Everybody thought I was a freak. I'm like, dude, I was very timid. I'm like, can you please tell me what you're listening to? He pulled one earphone away. He said, Metallica. I was sold. I went, took my $20 from cutting the prior lawn that I cut, and I bought Master of Puppets and Injustice for All. Never heard any of the songs off those albums, but I put them in and absolutely loved them. And that was, I was done. And I got into Joe Satriani soon after. I'm not super big on guitar virtuoso, but I love Satch because he replaces vocals with his guitar. So a mix of Satriani, Metallica, some other metal bands, the hair bands, of course, White Snake, Doc and all those bands as well. But I just traveled down that road, and I've been sold on it ever since.
I love it.
Yeah.
So 80s pop comes from my father. And that's
cool.
that, like when I was young, before all this stuff, like when my brother came into his own, my older brother is a couple years older than me. He's not super old. When he came into his own, I wanted to be like him. But before that, with my dad, like growing up was all 80s pop. Mike and the Mechanics,
I
Journey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I, to this day, like that's my heart. That's my sweet spot. You know what I mean? Whenever I want to feel good,
man. Loving Toto.
Harry Chapin.
I love Toto. Yeah.
Let's not bring Toto into this.
Hey, what about New Shoes, Taylor Dane? Now, I'll tell you this real quick, Nick. You may not know this, but I actually play 2 or 3 live acoustic shows a week around town here, and that's what I'm known for. I play 80s on acoustic. We do it my own way. So I play all that stuff on the guitar. So that's part of how I make my living these days as well.
I love it.
I love the 80s, man. I love it. If you told me I couldn't listen to metal anymore, I'd be disappointed. But you said, well, I can still listen to 80s, pop. I'd probably be okay with that.
Yeah. 80s pop and 80s rock is like,
kind of merged together.
Shit. But like 80s metal was never my thing, which is weird. Like I said, because all the guys that are metalheads around here are all from 80s metal. But no, in the 80s, I was listening to rock, basically, you know what I mean? Bon Jovi and
Madonna, I love Bon Jovi,
and fucking all of that shit. Michael Jackson.
Yep.
It's just the best stuff.
Well, metal's kind of matured quite a bit since that time, and we kind of subdivide metal into many, many different subgenres now. It's kind of like you don't just listen to just metal, you listen to like a specific kind of metal,
Sure.
And the production's kind of really changed quite a bit to that too. And, I think that's a really important highlight. That why are we like, when we harken back to some of these older bands, it does bring about nostalgia. But, do you think that it was also because of the sound that was captured and, how the performance was, established in those records versus, how people are doing it nowadays? What are your thoughts on something like that in the production realm, Nick?
It's such a difficult question to answer. Or I shouldn't say it's a difficult question to answer. It's a long question to answer. The short version of this answer is that, so for a lot of years, recording was kind of gate kept by people who could afford to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of the stuff that's emerging now, that's been emerging is because of ease of access. I mean, I know that when I got started recording back in the day, it was with a stolen copy of Cubase 2, Cubase something. I stole it off of the internet and started working with it. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, because before that, like we were working with drum machines and samplers and sequencers and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and the idea of recording a full band wasn't even on my radar, but it legitimately was able to steal the software and get started that way. And so many people, almost everyone I know started that way. Can't afford it, steal it, get it. And then the idea is, at least for me, was as soon as I can afford to buy this, I'm going to buy it. So, like I bought like Cubase 3. It was like the first thing that I was like able to buy, like running it on my PC and it's a fucking nightmare. But anyway, I mean, the ability to do this on a home computer is so new, and the technology has grown so much in such a short time that it's just it's ludicrous.
Yeah, it has been in an exponential way, hasn't it? Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, no, it kind of brings up a question, and I don't even know if this is relevant or not, but so back then it cost thousands of dollars or however much it costs, to go into the studio and record. So you really had to be on your game and capture that performance and get things right and then move on, right? Because time is money in the studio. Whereas these days, let me just go back and do it again, and just keep going over and over. Or technology maybe makes it easier, right? So yeah, exactly. So I mean, do you think, because it's been said, and I don't know the data to back this up, guys. I don't know if it's true, but there's a lot of articles and such will say that older music still outsells new music. And I just wonder if that has anything to do with the production, or is it more songwriting, which is a completely separate thing?
I don't think it's either of those things. I think it has to do with people, the people that spend money on records are the people that listen to old music. This generation coming up doesn't buy records.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just said I have this band in I've been working with them this month. We just wrapped their EP in their 15 through 18, playing grunge of all things.
Wow.
Which is hilarious. And they're awesome. Like, they're great kids and they're amazing. And I sat them down and had to explain how the music business works, because I'm like, look, if you want any kind of return on investment on this, like, you're going to have to go Bandcamp, or you're going to have to convince people to start buying records again. And good luck on that, because they don't. It just doesn't happen. So the reason why older music outsells is because that's what people in my age demographic and in my age bracket are used to doing. We buy records. This generation doesn't buy records at all. They listen to Spotify or YouTube or whatever the case may be, or they turn on some streaming thing and let it be like that. But I don't want to lose what you asked, Ken, because I think it's important, and I kind of skirted it and we lost it for a second. But the reason that the sound back then, I can't even remember the question. What was the question that you asked?
Basically, whether the production that we hear back in the 80s, because we're talking about how much we love the music back then, how it's developed since the 80s to now. What is the distinction in its change, and why are we moving in this direction, in a sense?
Okay, so the huge turning point is the computer. Is the easy way to put that. Before the computer, you had to have a console, you had to have a microphone, you had to have cables, you had to have as many tracks as you could have. And when you're working in analog, you have to have there's so many specific things that you have to do right in analog that you don't have to do right in digital. And when you hear people talk about things like gain structure and miking techniques and everything else or whatever, that's all left over from the analog days, which is, it's still pertinent in a way. Like, capture is still king. Like, if you can get a kick drum right at the source, yes, do that. You know what I mean? Absolutely. If you know how to mic a kick drum properly, and you want to spend the time and tune your kick drum, and you want to tune the room and get everything, perfectly set up so that when you capture that drum kit, it's going to be ideal, fine. But I can take a mic'd drum kit that's or a drum kit that's been mic'd less than ideal and make it sound like $10 million with very, very little effort. And I've done that. I just did it on the symphonic metal one that we just released, because we did it with Homeric. Is it Homeric or Homeric?
Homeric. Yep.
Homeric. So just did it on yours, on Homeric, on this, where we had a shitload of hi-hat bleed, and rather than wrestle with it and just endlessly go down the road of trying to get the signal correct, I just sample replace it something comparable, and in the mix you can't tell the difference. So for all that pomp and education and for everything that used to go on back in the day, where stuff is just, did you see what's it called, the Defiant ones? on
The
HBO.
The Defiant ones? I have not.
Okay, it's this guy Jimmy Iovine. I'm going to say his name wrong. Jimmy Iovine or whatever.
Yeah.
And basically, he was talking about how he, who he is. He's the head of Interscope. He was talking about how he came up and the studio that he used to work at, and like telling stories about, like the studio had basically trolled him. He had him come in. Well, troll is the wrong word, but he had all these Gandalf-esque tests. So like on Easter Sunday he had him come in, and Jimmy's like a Italian guy, you know what I mean? Like Easter Sunday is a big deal, and he's like, it's like, I need you to come in today. And he did. He's like, fuck it. Went in, drove into the city, and it was John Lennon. It was recording John Lennon on acoustic guitar. So you know what I mean? It's shit like that. But anyway, when Jimmy became who he was working with Bruce Springsteen. Was one of the first bands that I guess that he did. And I could be wrong about this. I don't know. I haven't seen it. It's been a lot of years since I saw it. But the point of this is where I'm trying to get at is that they spent 3 weeks getting drum tone. 3 weeks. And he's like, I could still remember it. It haunts my dreams. And it would just be someone in the control room going stick. And they would hit the snare drum or hit the cymbal or whatever they're hitting. And then they would adjust the mic 1/4 of an inch, stick, hit the drum, adjust it 1/4 of an inch. And that's how they used to get drum sound. Like it was this tedious, just unbelievably tedious process of moving mics around until you absolutely got it right in the control room. You know what I mean? And that was three weeks to get a drum sound.
Yeah.
3 weeks. But they didn't have a choice. Like I guess they had a choice, but like if you wanted something to sound good, that's all you could do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have trial and error and moving mics around, and that's it. That's the end of what you can do in the analog world. Like you can add like you could send it through a different board, you could send it through a set of different filters and maybe compress on the way in or whatever else you're going to do. But at the end of the day, like it's the kinetic energy coming from whatever's making sound, taken in by the microphone and converted, from electrical energy back into the kinetic energy of the speakers. And that is it. Right. You know what I mean? That's why these analog guys are crazy about their mic lockers. Like, what's your mic locker? Because that's how they got their different colors. That's how they got their different sounds. If they were working on a guitar and it was the wrong sounding thing, they would run in and they would change out the microphone, experiment with 2 different microphones. You know what I mean? And that's how you get all these, wonderful miking techniques from back in the day. Like this is how they got their sound. Wow. And it's not really like that anymore. There was a lot more experiment. I talked to this guy, Eric, over in Mike, over at Black Hole Guitars in Westfield, who's this incredible dude. And he likes to record the old analog way, which I'm into. But he was just talking about like he fished a mic down a chimney and had a guy sing into the chimney. Dude. You know what I mean? So that the mic could capture what was going on.
That's awesome,
I live for shit like that. Like I love shit like that. But back in the day, all that experimentation was all they had. You know what I mean? To get a new sound, to get like something cool sounding. Whereas now in the digital realm, it's very, very different.
Yeah, it's just press a button, man, and you're there. It's interesting though. Thank you for bringing this stuff up, man, because what I love about this is, I guess, and it has nothing to do with the sound or quality, I guess, but it's the story behind everything that happened. There's a story to tell with that, and it makes it very interesting. And in my mind, sometimes that story might help people listen or sell or whatever, because a lot of times we have our biases and that sort of thing. We hear something exciting, it's like, okay, that's got a cool story behind it. Yeah, I like that, right? Whereas if you didn't have that story behind it, you might not pay attention to some of the things, if that makes sense. So yeah, it is interesting. We can just, I don't really consider this a studio. It's a 10 by 11 room. I can record here, but I wouldn't dare try to mix in here, right? So it's just not set up for that. But I can still do everything I need to in this room right here. Which
is pretty amazing, right? And
it is.
I think there is a there's something to say about that, right? Obviously, having things accessible makes it a little liberating for people, but at the same time, right, there's a trade-off, right? The market's more saturated, you know, there's not as much high quality stuff coming out because now we're not talking about a focused group of people who know what they're doing, but it's like a vast number of people who kind of, or maybe not even know what they're doing, trying to release music too. And so now we have this play where we're in a position here, especially at Metal Mastermind, the three of us as instructors, we are on a mission to, you know, help educate. And that's really, really important coming from, you know, what Nick was talking about, this older analog world where the only way to do it was to get it right, to make it correct. And then, you know, you come here now where we have all the editing tools in the world, and you have, you know, plugins that have dynamic resonant control and all this kind of stuff. It's like almost in a way super forgiving. And that's something that
so forgiving. And I mean, the huge distinction between the way it was done back in the day and the way that it's done now is that back in the day, once it went to tape, that's it.
Yep.
It's
Done.
fucking wrapped.
Yep.
That's it.
And
Good luck.
people romanticize a lot about tape nowadays because they're like, oh man, but you know, the sound. And it's like, but yeah, did you ever try recording on tape? Like, that's a pain in the ass. Like, it takes like
It's dude,
8
you
minutes
gotta be,
to cut
yeah.
and edit.
You gotta be fucking, you gotta be mustard. I mean,
Yeah, man.
so and I mean, there was a different mindset about like the level of musicianship too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of
I would think so.
expectation that,
Yeah.
you know, oh my God, you had to be fucking Johnny on the spot back
Yep.
in the day. You know what I mean? Like if you fucked up what you were doing, I mean, there were punch-ins and stuff like that, but like once it was like, and this is what I was talking about with guitar tone, like the reason why all that time was spent is because once your guitar tone was printed, that's it.
You're done.
That's your fucking guitar tone, dude. I can EQ it, but that's it. You're not gonna be able to change sounds or whatever. Now I'll take your DI signal, and literally that process that I was talking about moving microphones, you could do that digitally in something like Neural DSP, and like, yeah, just, and I mean, I could do it ad nauseum, like until my computer decays and I become old and waste away. I can move mics around after the fact, after you've already recorded your shit. And that's a huge distinction. Same thing with drums,
Right.
like when we got your snare sound, that's your snare sound. Good luck. Now I can swap snares out until, you know, we're old and gray. We're older and grayer. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
the
but Nick,
ability to do that is fucking, it just changes everything, you know?
I do have a question. And this kind of comes similar to like the whole idea of what you're doing with drums, because you replace a lot of drums with triggers, or you blend them and whatnot. But when it comes to guitars, how many times do you strip away the original recording of the cabinet and replace it with like a amp sim, or do you combine it? And you know, what's that like for you?
It's different every time. It's different every time. I can say for my own productions, we get a guitar sound first. Like when I'm doing something in the shop, like if a band comes in, like the first thing that we do is we get a guitar tone. You know, right? Well, not the first thing that we do, but like when it comes time to do guitars, we get a tone. Like if it's going to be your amp, okay. If it's going to be a sim, okay. But we get a guitar tone. We get one guitar tone, or, you know, however many guitar tones we're going to use. And then that's your guitar tone. And I really try not to fuck with that or change that unless it really, really, really needs it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And sometimes it does. I mean, and that changes. The time where that gets really stupid is when you're mixing people's shit, and like you really want it to sound good, and you're overthinking it, and you're not, you know, following your own rules about things, and you're like, oh, this doesn't sound good. Maybe if I try another different guitar sound on this, you know what I mean? And it's just, oh God, you know, and you drive yourself crazy with that shit. Maybe if I try this plugin, when the answer is what it's always been, which is get a good guitar sound and then allow that to be what the guitars sound like.
So that's interesting, Nick. So you're saying get that first. Like don't worry about recording in it. And I know you can change things later and after the fact. I mean, like you use Neural DSP a lot. I like Positive Grid's bias, products. I've been using that for years.
I don't even know. You got to show it to me.
I will. I'll share that with you. Yeah, Positive Grids,
sure.
Bias FX, and they have a Celestion, the licensed Celestion speakers in there available now. And to me, that was one of the game changers because with amp sims, since we're talking about guitar tone snobbery here, with amp sims, I think the weak link for all these years, and I've been using sims, here and there since 2009, 10. Was the cab speaker mic and the IRs, if you will, but that's come so far. But it brings me to a question: Do you ever have a situation where they recorded their guitar with their amp and they're like, well, I have to have this tone, but you're like, this tone's not really fitting with the mix. Maybe we should reamp that and use a sim. Do you ever run into that situation?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
All the time. I almost insist that if you're going to use your amp tone, that we also do a DI.
Gotcha.
And the reason why is that, so this usually happens when I record guitar players, not people that play the guitar. And there's a difference.
I love it.
I'm a person that plays the guitar. I play the guitar in my band. I enjoy playing the guitar. It's very fun. But at the end of the day, like I take a step back and see the big picture. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. Like if it fits in the mix, great. Like who gives a fuck? But when I record guitar players who are, they spend hours and hours and hours in front of their 4x12, too close to their 4x12, endlessly tweaking their tone, and changing the height of their pickups and doing all of this minutia to try and get the sound that they absolutely want. And they don't understand that, like, that sound that you're hearing is a 4x12 in the wrong spot, being kicked to your ears at a really specific angle. Like, that's not how it's going to sound when I put mics on it. Like, then the mic has to translate it. It has to go through the interface, and then it has to be translated, and it's going to come out of two 8-inch speakers on my desk, and it's not going to fucking sound like your 4x12, dude. It's going to sound different. You're going to be disappointed, and you're going to be like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I just went through this. I literally just went through this like a year ago with a good friend of mine who's that kind of guitarist, like that OCD guitarist who just lives for his guitar tone, lives for it, stacks amps on top of amps and shit. You know what I mean? Pedal board that you can, it's just his thing. You know what I mean? He's into it. And I'm like, yeah. Then like he came in to do 5 songs and, amazing drum tone. Our friend Chris did the drums. He's fucking unbelievable. Sent him out to my guy, got him edited. Got it back. It was like the end of the world. Like, didn't replace anything. All done in my room. You know what I mean? Like the crack on the snare is perfect. Just the right amount of ping. Yeah. Perfect drums. And then here comes this dude, and he's got 3 cabs with him, and he wants to trade cabs out and like figure out what his sound's going to be like. And I'm like, that's cool, man. But we should really go DI, because I'm telling you, this technology's come a long way. And like when it comes to finding your guitar sound, like I appreciate the idea that you want to use what you think is good, but it might not wind up being what you want. And if we do it DI, then we have options. We do what I was just talking about, which is the ability to tweak infinitely after the fact. When it's your amp, that's your amp. Congratulations, you have a guitar tone. I hope you like it, because if you don't, fuck you.
Not much you can do, right? I mean, there's really not. You can EQ here and there a little bit, but there's not really a whole lot you can do.
Yeah.
And
no,
I've done
we can
that
EQ the shit out of it. I mean, we can compress it. We can add effects. There's a million things we can do after the fact, but the tone itself is not changing.
Right.
I want to kind of hone in on this for a second, because in your in your course, you have a couple of sort of guidelines that you say in the beginning for everybody to sort of be aware of. And one of them is never mix in solo, And that I feel like is a very important rule here too, because when you're talking about guitar tone, you're talking about sound designing stuff and you're not hearing it in context. So that's a huge element to anything when it comes to music and mixing things together. You got to make sure that certain things mesh well with each other. And a lot of people don't remember that, or they never had the experience of necessarily being in that situation where it has to all blend together. I think that's sort of a maturity in terms of a mixer or a even just a musician themselves, just being aware of those kinds of properties when it comes to recording.
Well, it depends on what kind of guy you're going to be. You know what I mean? Like if you're, yeah, I mean, I suppose you could call it a maturity. But if you're a guitar player and that's what you do, I play guitar for my band, you're super zoomed in on guitar and that's the only thing that you care about. Okay. But, my challenge would be to zoom out. Maybe think about what the guitar is doing with the other guitar and then zoom out a little more. What are the guitars doing with the bass? Mm-hmm. And then zoom all the way out. And what's the guitar doing with the band? And then zoom the farthest that you can, which is complete objectivity, which is where you should be as a mixer, which is how does the song sound?
Right.
You know what I
love
mean?
that. Do what's best for the song, right? Because
always serve the song.
Yeah.
Always serve the song. You don't serve the musician. It's a musician that has to serve the song. And in an ideal situation, like that's where it should be. And it is. It's the destruction of the ego. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's hard when you get with guys that are, they've been doing this for however long, and we're all musicians here. Like how much of your ego is invested in what you write,
sure,
what you do, and a part of that is the ability to know what you're talking about. So, I mean, there's nothing like I remember back in the day. I was in this band called Collapse Into Reason. My guitar player Ken had this atrocious guitar tone. It was just all over the place. We would constantly be on him, and he was, he's another one. He's like constantly adjusting, and I mean, he had this rack. I remember this huge fucking rack, and he had you remember back in the day where it was like analog racks and stuff like that. Like instead of just having a guitar head, he had a rack system, and it was enormous with like a Mesa cab. And through all that, his guitar tone still sounded like shit. Oh. And we were just, we were like, dude, why? It's so bad. It's so bad.
This is awesome, man.
And it was just so bad. So we go to record, and we go to Zeus, who is one of my heroes. Who's he was a local guy. Now he's international. He works for Rob Zombie. He's done like 3 Queensryche records, but he cut his teeth on Shadows Fall back in the day.
Ooh, Shadows
Fall. We went up to see Zeus. You know Zeus, right?
Yeah.
You know his work? Yeah.
Yeah. Mastering engineer too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. He's incredible. He's about 15 minutes north of where I'm at. And he's him, and being in the studio and having the experience that I had with him is a lot of what made me want to do this. But when we got into the studio with Zeus all of a sudden, because he comes from a position of authority that's respected, his message has depth and weight. It's not your singer. I was the singer at the time. It's not your singer going, I don't like your guitar tone. This is Zeus going, all right, your guitar tone is shit. We're going to fix it. And Ken going, okay, we'll fix it, And then he goes in and dials his guitar tone in for him, and it's immaculate. Finds a sweet spot in his cab, and he went in and duct taped it so that you knew the sweet spot in the cab. And
awesome, man. Wow.
Yeah, so like the ability to talk to people with like some kind of education or authority, like a message that has like depth and weight to it, you know what I mean, where you could say to them like, look, I've been doing this, I know what I'm doing, like trust me, like I'm not going to make you sound bad. Like I love the ability to do that. I love the ability to talk guys out of bad decisions. And and get them closer to where they want to be, whether they know it or not. Like, this is for your own good, you son of a bitch.
Now,
Nick,
so
one of the things I tell my guitar players real quick is that, guitar players especially have an issue with this. I ask them, who are you writing music for? Are you just writing music to try to impress other guitar players? Let me do, X amount of sweep arpeggios and I hope everybody loves my tone. Or are you writing music for people that just love that style of music? I think there's a big difference in mindset when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Musicians that play to other musicians.
Right.
I mean,
that is a thing.
that was the thing in my area for years and years. All the bands would play to each other. We would always try to one up each other. And I mean,
right.
Look, at the end of the day, like, knowing your audience is a huge part of what it is. And I tell guys all the time, like, look, if you're just doing it for the love of it, which is, maybe the highest form of art, like, if you're just doing it because you love it, and it's what you need to be doing to, make your soul complete. Like, if this is the way that you express yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. It may be the best thing, actually, you know what I mean? But like, if you're going to do something that you're trying to sell, we have to have a conversation,
right?
So that's not going to sell, and I, truth be told, I'd rather do the first one. I'd rather do the one where it's like art. I'd rather create art, but most of the people aren't, like, their goal isn't to like create art and express themselves. It's usually that they want to get to some higher level of whatever, you know what I mean? They want to be playing a bigger stage or a bigger crowd or selling more records, proverbially,
So I have a question then, to kind of tie things together. What is sort of the message that you want to leave your audience with as it comes to independent music, preparing to make a record, all these types of things? What would you say to them as what's important to focus on?
I mean, that's way too broad a question.
Well, keep it
to that question for.
Let's keep it a little philosophical, right? Some people like to say, what's important in life. So what's important in making music? And what should a person who's making their record, be it the first time, third time, doesn't matter, as an indie musician, what should somebody do or keep in mind as they're trying to make the best record that they can?
I mean, there's still a lot of variables in that as well, but the universal ones are: you have not practiced enough. Go practice. Also, take your band apart. And what I mean by that is, normal people, when they practice, normal people usually when bands practice, it's in a room that's way too loud, and no one can hear anybody else, and they're just playing their parts kind of isolated in a vacuum. Well, not quite a vacuum, but enough of a vacuum. I mean, the famous thing that you hear in the studio is one guitar player says to the other guitar player, "I didn't know you played that. That's awesome. I know you played that. That's in the wrong key." I just went through it with the band I just did. Like, dude, what's that thing you play at the end? Oh, I've literally played that every time. I've never heard that before. It's incredible. Like, and it's cool. It's a fun thing to have happen in the studio once you can hear it, but do that before. If you're trying to get ready to go into the studio and create a great record, have the two guitar players play that by themselves. You know what I mean? Listen to everything. Practice your ass off. Get a click track. Learn to play to a click track. Like, do that. Get fast with your parts. You know what I mean? If you're a singer and you're new, make sure that you're singing outside of the band, because I get this a lot too, which is first time singer syndrome, where, usually when it comes to metal, if you're a metal vocalist, for at least the kind of stuff that I like, it's basically just like raw emotion. You know what I mean? It's a real, like, disgusting vocals, And a lot of these guys have never heard themselves sing without the band playing behind them. So we get the whole band recorded and we get them in front of the mic, and I'm like, you ready? And I'll put the headphones on them and get them a good level, and they can't do it. So they've never done it before.
Well,
never sang outside of having the band mask them and letting them kind of hide behind the band. You know what I mean? They have that egomaniac inferiority complex thing that we all have as vocalists in metal bands. And it's like, and that's a conversation, you know, that I've had to have with a lot of guys. Like, listen, you're in the front. Like, if you want to do this as a hobby project, and you want to, you know, if it's what you love to do, and you're doing it for yourself and nobody else, like, that's fine. But like, if you want to be the front man in a metal project, like, you have got to allow yourself to be the front man in a metal project. Push yourself out to the front. Learn to love your voice. Learn to know what your voice is. You know what I mean? You have to know how you sound, because we're going to put you right smack in the front. You're going to be the loudest thing in the mix. You better be good, and you better be into it. You know what I mean? Dude, the number of people, 75% of the people that come in that are local, that are newer, they have no idea what they sound like. And they're scared and timid, and I can't do this like this. So they have to get drunk, which is even worse.
Oh, that's horrible, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a standard for a long time, as a singer can't do it. I mean, there's some very, very well-known singers that can't do it in the studio without getting drunk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I try to talk to them like that, but yeah, I mean, you can't practice enough. Get yourself on a click track, isolate the instruments in your band, get out of that loud setting, learn what everyone's playing, analyze the song. You know what I mean? And I mean, like, that's the work that you can do to get into the studio and get the job done, and to put your art in the hands of a mixer and then a mastering engineer or whatever, in the best way that you can.
Amazing. Those are amazing points.
It's pure gold.
Well, and this is the way. So when I track at my place, I do it like this. I had a guy hit me. So get a load of this. You're going to love this. I don't even know if I told you guys this. So I had a guy hit me up on Discord about the course. And he's like, so since I've been, and this is going to sound like I'm promoting my course, and I'm not. I swear to God, this is a true story. He's like, since doing the producer overload series, he's like, my mixes are so good now that people are hearing them and they want me to mix.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Dude, I was like, yes. Tell me more.
Well, that's our intent. That was exactly our intent. Yeah.
No, I know. I was so fucking stoked. Like, I put the phone down. I was dancing. I was like, are you kidding me, dude? I was like, just to get one feedback like that once is just like amazing. But like, he's like, you've totally changed everything about the way that I mix. And now, like, my mixes are confident, they're good, and I'm on. People want me to mix for them. How do I charge? Because he's starting to get paying clients, and I'm like, dude, yes.
So he needs to schedule a one-on-one with you. By the way, real quick for our audience, you know, Nic has the course on the metalmastermind.com website. It's called Metal Producer Overlord Mixing Series. And a lot of people, what they'll do, they'll take the course, mix their stuff, but then they want to go to that next level. So Nic also does one-on-one consultations. That's available on metalmastermind.com as well. So I just want to throw that plug in real quick for you, Nic.
Quick little plug in. Sell stuff.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
The fuck was I talking about?
And well, our Discord is like a very, very awesome place to find like-minded individuals, and that's where you're going to find people like what Nic is talking about, who are sharing their stories. I
was talking
love
about the dude.
Yeah,
I'm charging. He doesn't know how much to charge.
Again, I'm sorry.
I love that. No, I love that. No, keep going, please.
So he's like, I'm getting paying clients now. What do I charge? And I told him the way that I do it, which is, and this goes back to our other conversation, which is, when it comes to tracking, I do hourly because it's on you. If you come in prepared and, you know, you've been practicing and you come in with, you know, fresh strings and you're fucking, you know, you're dialed in and ready to go, you can get things done in 1 or 2 takes, and that will save you money. You know what I mean? But it's on you if you come in unprepared and you don't know what you're doing. And You know, I have guys all the time. They're like, "Oh, I don't really know. Like, I was gonna write it." Like, yeah, you can sit and write in the studio, but you're gonna fucking pay. You're not gonna sit in my spot and write. Right?
No, dude.
Are you kidding? Fuck, what are we? Infinite budget? What is this? Is this 1985? We're sitting in fucking. You know what I mean? Like
studios
$20,000. You know what I mean? What are we, Pantera sitting writing in the studio? Like, what is this? What kind of operation do you think I have here? Like, no, come in prepared. And if you do that, you can get out of there and like it works better for you. And when I mix, it's a flat rate. And because of the opposite reason, if I know what I'm doing, if I'm prepared, if I'm mustered, if I'm up on my shit, then I can mix your song confidently and get it to where it needs to go. And I can make a decent hourly wage. If I'm not, make fucking $5 an hour, you know?
Gotcha.
Right.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? But that's on me. Tracking is on you. And that's what I told him. I was like, and that it goes back to the conversation that we just had about preparedness and, you know, listening to things beforehand and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Well, Jason, take it away, man.
Well, this is Nick. I want to say thank you so much, man, for being on the podcast today. Ken and I both appreciate it. You know that. And thank you even more so for being a part of Metal Mastermind. Guys, real quick for our listeners. So go to metalmastermind.com, click on the button that says courses. You will find Nic Z's course there, Metal Producer Overlord, the mixing series. And as I mentioned earlier, yes, Overlord. We got Death Metal Overlord. But he also does one-on-one consultation. Is something new that we just started. So that's all available on our website at metalmastermind.com. Nick, want to thank you once again. Guys, you know what to do. Until the next episode, always create your own sound.